Once the heart of every community, churches have seen a steady decline in attendance over the past few decades. This week, we're exploring the future of faith. We'll sit down with religious leaders to discuss the challenges of smaller congregations and the strategies to bring people back into the pews. Tonight, Maureen sits down for a one-on-one interview with Bishop Edward Malesic to discuss the biggest challenges facing the Cleveland Catholic Diocese.
Northeast Ohio is home to one of the largest Catholic populations in the United States, but numbers are dwindling. A recent Gallup poll found that within the last 25 years, attendance at Mass fell from 45% to 33% nationwide. I sat down with the bishop to talk about the issues driving people away and how the church is working to get them back.
We know the name of our Savior. His name is Jesus Christ. We come to him in this cathedral and in our churches.
Bishop Edward Malesic was installed at the height of COVID in 2020, overseeing 8 counties and roughly 640,000 people who claimed to be Catholic during one of the church's most challenging times.
Well, it changed the whole community, and the Catholic community is part of the whole community.
Like nearly everything else, Masses became virtual.
And some people would say bad for us because people got into the habit of watching Mass online instead of going to Mass in person.
But the bishop admits shrinking congregations started long before the pandemic.
So would you say that society now, families are just not prioritizing their faith and taking the time out to connect with God and Jesus?
Not all families, but enough that it's noticeable. Families aren't prioritized. Sometimes families aren't prioritizing family either. They're not prioritizing these core things that are central to building healthy individuals, healthy communities.
I know personally a lot of my fellow Catholics have said that they have an issue with the Catholic teachings and with the LGBTQ community and how it doesn't connect. Do you think that that has been one of the challenges, and what do you hear from other members of the Catholic community?
Sure, certainly it's a challenge. How do we say, and I do say, and I believe that every person is created in the image of God, whether they are gay or lesbian or whether they identify as transgender, that they are created in God's image and they're loved by God. We continually say that some things are right, some things are wrong. That doesn't mean that people are evil. They're not evil. They're beautiful, wonderful people. But we do set, we believe, not me, but the gospel sets certain guidelines that we have to follow. Sometimes I work within those guidelines, sometimes I don't.
There are other issues that have plagued the Catholic Church, like the sex abuse scandal, and locally, churches closing permanently. As a society, politics and racial tension continue to pull us apart.
We're so divided, which is really disheartening. We have such a divided community. We have to learn how to live together, how to be civil with one another, how to disagree. You know, obviously I disagree with people, they disagree with me. Can we do it in a civil way? And can we still get together and have dinner?
And as it has been for centuries, the bishop says faith is what will create that community.
I think it only happens when people realize they have a need for church. And that is something that we need to continually say, this is what we can offer you. Whether they grab hold of that or not, that's their decision.
The bishop and I also talked about how the church is continuing its community outreach to help those less fortunate in our area. We talked about how he plans on reaching young people who maybe haven't grown up with religion as a priority. You can catch our entire conversation streaming now on WKYC+.
And tomorrow we sit down with the pastor of a non-denominational church here in Cleveland. The number of its faithful followers is growing, in part due to its unconventional path.